Welcome, everybody. This is our first of 8 video webinars on the book, Developing Lean Leaders at All Levels, a Practical Guide. What you'll see, some of you who've got video, in the top right corner, if you open it up, you'll see other video pictures in there. One of them is Brian Miller with his team, and the intent is, welcome Brian, wave your hands. The intent, there he is that his team, he bought 18 books, getting them together on going through the book and implementing Lean in this new, developing leaders way. So thank you, Brian. He's going to have the first question, and everybody else is welcome to chat the questions to LLI Coach or Jeff Liker himself. And what we're doing is the first half hour is the going through the PowerPoint slides, and then we'll open it up for half hour of questions. If it goes a little later and you have to go, don't worry. We're recording it, and it'll be available at LeanLeadership.guru /community.html, and you can download the video. All right, let's get started. And Jeff, thank you very much for joining us. This is going to be great. I really like the fact that it's a book club, and I think for effective book clubs, somebody's got to take away something and do something with it. Jeff, maybe you could talk about that first, and then we can get started.
Okay, thanks, George. Again, the format for each of these sessions will be to go through one chapter. Today I'll go through chapter 1 and introduce background. The book, Developing Lean Leaders at All Levels, is kind of like the field book to the Toyota Way to Lean Leadership. Just as in the Toyota Way, I had a field book. And therefore there's some overlap, but there's also a lot of unique information in the new book, Developing Lean Leaders. And the format of the Toyota Way to Lean Leadership is to tell stories from Toyota. I wrote it with Gary Convis, who was a former managing officer of Toyota, and use those to illustrate concepts. The new book, Developing Lean Leaders format, is to really give you more of a how-to. The examples are from a variety of different companies, not just Toyota, and it's not saying here's what Toyota does and here's the thinking behind it, but rather what should you do if you want to develop yourself and others as a lean leader. So the starting point of the book was to ask ourselves, what are we trying to accomplish? And rather than take a set of quotes from a lean book or a set of quotes from Toyota, I started out with Good to Great from Jim Collins, who studies great companies, primarily American companies. And so they're not Japanese, they don't make cars, they make all sorts of things. They're hotels, it's Disney, it's fast food companies, it's a whole set of different companies. And what characterizes these companies is that they consistently outperform their competitors in their industry. They'll be the best company for 15 years in a row in earnings, or actually he looked at stock prices, and they'll be the outliers. They'll be the one that's way up above the average for their industry. And then he went backwards and said, what are their characteristics? And did a lot of interviews and then assembled a picture, a composite picture that says these are the characteristics of the great leaders. What was interesting to me was that the general characteristics that he described fit Toyota so well. So then I began to think of Toyota as an example of a great company rather than as the great company, the only great company we can learn from. And it also validated a lot of my observations at Toyota by seeing that all great companies seem to have these characteristics. And this is a list, and it's in the book, and you probably read it, but the starting point is passion for delivering value to customers. And this is not the marketing department, but it's the CEO, it's the entire executive team. They see their purpose, and in Toyota's case, they would say, our purpose is adding value to society, communities, and customers. But it starts with the customer. If they can't add value to the customer, then they have lost the game and it's over. Second, they have a set of values for the business. By values, I mean, what do we think is important as we act day to day? And what we value and think important is not simply our profitability in the next quarter. It goes way beyond that. Again, if your mission is to serve society, serve communities, serve customers, there's a lot of things you have to do. You have to be environmentally aware. You have to be concerned about safety. You have to take some responsibility for the economic well-being of a community where you have a plant or an operation and the people who are employees who work for your companies. There's a commitment to building a great enterprise for the long term, and long term is very important, and particularly since we live in a fast world where rapid change often converts into, I better make my money now, this quarter. The idea of a great enterprise is that we want to be exceptional, we want to be the best in our industry, we want to serve our customers better, we want to be the most admired company, and that commitment from the top, the CEO, is a passion for the enterprise, not only a passion for shareholder profits. Many companies, it seems, are really looking at the bottom line, and that's their report card. For the CEO of a great company, his or her report card is this enterprise outstanding, exceptional, performing better than everybody else at what we're supposed to be doing, providing better service, on time, reliably, and are we adapting with new products that customers want, and can we say we're excellent? And and that goes beyond if you're profitable but your customers are not happy and you're damaging your suppliers and you're damaging the communities, you're not a great enterprise. I built on past books with developing lean leaders, including the Toyota Way, which probably most of you are familiar with. And in the Toyota Way, I've started with this model, and it's worth just briefly going through it to remind us. Again, the foundation is long-term thinking, like the great companies that Colin studied. And there's a clear philosophy. And this was represented for the first time in a diagram and on paper in 2001. In fact, they still call it the Toyota Way 2001. And they said, when it comes down to it, there's two things that drive this company and allow us to adapt to the environment and to stay on top or near the top in terms of vehicles sold. And one is continuous improvement. We're constantly trying to get better. We get better, we standardize, we get better, we standardize, we get better, we standardize, and this is happening every place in the world in Toyota. And everybody's being developed to continuously improve, and we do that through the principle of respect for people, where we treat people as partners, and the exchange is that we will provide you with a good standard of living, with stable employment, we'll, as a last resort, after exhausting all other possibilities, lay you off. But we will, during ups and downs, temporary ups and downs, we'll hire temporary labor in order to protect your jobs. And you're going to be the core, you're going to be buffered, and you're going to be your jobs are going to be protected. And part of respect is we're going to challenge you to do your very best. So your part of the bargain is that you're going to help continuously improve your work processes, and you're going to be committed to that and passionate about it and aligned with the company values and company direction in exchange for being a team member who's going to be taken care of by the company and for the long term, probably for the rest of your life. So these are built on, at the bottom, the core values of challenge, and in fact, the view in Toyota is that if a person is not challenged, then they're not being respected. They're being disrespected because they're not growing. They grow through performing Kaizen, through the process of continuous improvement, which develops themselves as they're improving processes, as they're learning how to lead others. Genshi Genbutsu, which we often call Gemba, going to the Gemba, which is really important and I think distinguishes these top leaders in Colin's case and Toyota leaders, is that they're always trying to see for themselves how they're doing. They're not satisfied with a customer survey. They want to go out and talk to customers and see how customers are being served. They're not satisfied with HR deciding on selection criteria and promotions. They want to meet people firsthand, interview them, talk to them, see them at work, watch them change over a machine, watch them holding a daily meeting, watch how they respond when somebody pulls an andon and the line stops. So they want to see for themselves. And then respect means, again, that we're constantly challenging you to grow and develop yourself, even if it doesn't necessarily feel that great at the time. You may feel some pressure, but you're going to come out the end. You'll have the support to come out the end of that pressure stronger, more confident, and a better you. And then teamwork to Toyota means both we want exceptional individuals who are developed to contribute to a team in a common direction. The process of eliminating waste is sometimes misunderstood. And what we're trying to do is to shift the focus of the organization from a vertical focus to making the numbers to a horizontal focus to serving customers. And in the ideal case, we would like to be able to talk to anybody in the company and ask them what they do, and the answer should be, we make cars to satisfy customers, to get them to where they want to go, to keep them safe so they can enjoy the driving experience. We contribute to that. We have a purpose beyond installing the tires, beyond sweeping the floor, beyond maintaining the machines. And in order to continuously improve that process, once you have that process flowing with some degree of stability, then you want to notice when there's deviations from standards that need to be defined. You need to define what is a good process that serves the customer, what's a safe process, what's a process that is low waste, that's low cost. And once a process is defined at some level, then you want to surface problems, and you want leaders focusing on the work itself, not just looking at a report and saying, you didn't make the numbers, you didn't make the Kanban assessment score, you didn't make the number of products you're supposed to make, you didn't make your quality numbers. You want leaders focusing on the work, and what they're going to ask is, why did this get out of standard, and what are you going to do about it? They want people's ingenuity to be used for improving the system and not beating the system. And that requires exceptional people, and it requires some degree of autonomy. So the organization, and this is most clear in manufacturing, but you'll see something similar in other parts of the company, is a structure where, number one, they will often say, let's turn the organization chart upside down, because the value-added workers are our most important people. They're the ones that are actually adding value to the customers. So we as leaders need to support them. The team structure in a plant is team members whose job is to do the work and come up with ideas for improving how they do the job and detecting when there's a deviation from the standard. That's the purpose of the andon. I detect a deviation from the standard, I pull a cord and signal we've got a problem, we've got a gap between the standard and actual. The team leader then is the first line of defense they immediately should be there. In two cases, within seconds, they have to be at the team member station trying to understand what the problem is so they can contain it. The group leader is really running their group as though it's a mini business, so that all the equipment in the area, the safety of the people, the development of the people, the daily running of the business, the responding to problems, all of that is overseen by the group leader, but the group leader is also, in a sense, strategically planning through the Hoshin-Conry process I'll talk about in a second, but they have clear goals that are aligned with the goals of the managers and the vice presidents, and they're responsible for delivering on those goals, those annual goals, and doing something every day to move toward those goals. And then there's the assistant manager, and it goes all the way up to the vice president and president. But the work groups are important because they're not self-managing. They're not left alone by management. They have a very, very strong leadership in the group leaders and team leaders, but the group leaders and team leaders are lean leaders. They're at the gemba. They're asking questions. They're not blaming people. They're encouraging problems to be surfaced. When the problems are surfaced, they're objective facts. They're not a cause to point the finger at somebody. And then the dynamic of the Toyota Way, I called problem solving, or you could call it continuous improvement. And the key to problem solving is to have a process for solving the problem. And that process is plan, do, check, act. We called it in the Toyota Way to continuous improvement, plan, do, check, adjust, because what you're doing is you're establishing a plan, which actually is like an experiment. It's a hypothesis. That is, we have a direction, a vision, we have a challenge, we identify gaps between the current state and where we want to go. We know where we are in relation to where we want to be, and then we formulate countermeasures, which are like hypotheses. I believe if I improve this, that I will get closer to true north, to the vision we have. I believe that, but I don't know yet until I do it, until I run the experiment. And when I run the experiment, I'm going to communicate, I'm going to involve, I'm going to have a team of people who also understand the vision and the experiment, and they're going to help me also to check what happened as a result of that experiment. And then based on the results of the experiment, I'm going to take action. And that's usually called ACT. We said adjust because sometimes ACT is interpreted as we simply standardize what we've done, whereas adjust means we're now going to go through start the next experiment, and now continue to adjust the process to get closer and closer to my target. So this is what every lean leader should be expert at doing. Very few leaders that I run across in the world are very good at doing that. What they do is more like the next figure. Okay, so that we talk about firefighting, and what we mean by that is that the leaders, that there's so many problems and there's so much chaos happening, and the standards are not well defined, and we don't have a clear direction. So every time there's a little brush fire any place, the leaders run to contribute, even whether they can contribute or not. And they're constantly in a reactive mode of reacting to the problem of the minute. In that case, when you're doing that, you don't have time to plan. You don't have time to check to see what happened. You don't have time to learn and adjust. You kill the plan, do, check, act cycle. And it becomes do, firefight, firefight, firefight. So I would say a good definition for lean